All right, we are live. So what's going on, guys? We got another great episode for you guys today, talking about staying resilient in difficult times. Because there's going to be plenty of times when us as men we get kicked down in life, whether that be with our career, whether that be with our personal relationships, whether it be really with anything that we're trying to do. It's never easy, but how do you take that difficult situation and actually really be like a phoenix out of the ashes and grow from it. And so that's kind of we're going to be diving in today. So how's everybody doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Had a lot of college football yesterday. It's weather's nice here, but back to the grind tomorrow. But other than that, doing great. What about you guys?
Doing well, doing well. Yeah, it's been a productive weekend, and getting ready to take a little trip here. So, yeah, once again, taking another trip. But yeah, very very excited, and yeah, staying focused.
Excellent. Doing very well, thanks. Actually, I was telling the guys earlier before we went live, I actually had a roundtable with my executive coach and some of our team there on this very subject this morning, slightly different on it. So maybe I'll open this with actually the question that we started with, which was adversity. Is it the enemy or is it your friend? We'll go around asking guys that. What are your outlooks on adversity?
That's interesting. I think that it's really how you frame it. What is it? Patrick Bet David just released another book, or is going to be, that I think is kind of the same type of thing of keeping like enemies closer, or like making your enemies like your best friend. Let me look that up. I'll let you guys talk on this, but I think it relates to exactly that, like what type of relationship you have with adversity.
I mean, I would say it's both. Because having an enemy makes you one sharper, but two, it gives you a challenge to rise to, and keeps you on your toes. I mean, if you look like in athletics, like the best athletes, they always had like some rival, right? Whether it's like a rival team, a rival player, something, a challenge that they had to like constantly. Meet and go across that made them better and drove them to be better and to be more innovative. So for sure it's adversity. It sucks a lot for sure, because there's a, life would be amazing if you didn't really have to like go through it and you had like much smoother pathways. And it can be, the way I describe it is like more of an annoyance or like a major nuisance than like an actual like something that's like really really bad, because there are some things that are just like genuinely like really really bad, right? And those are like real challenges. So most adversity that you face though is just going to be more of like an annoyance, right? Where it's like, oh, there's something going on in my career, all right, this is like annoying, but it's not like a health issue, right? Which is a major challenge that I got to rise to and overcome. Like, oh, I'm having like problems with the lady friends right now. Well, that's also can be a bit more of an annoyance rather than like a major like, yeah, one of my best friends is terminally ill type situation. So depending on the nature of what it is, I would say that most of it is really really is good for you. And yeah, it's annoying, but it helps make you better and it makes you a lot sharper. But then in those like 10% of cases where it actually is something that truly is like, hey, this is real hardship, this is real like life or death, then that's really the ultimate call, right? The ultimate challenge there to say, hey, like, are you going to follow the fundamental law of nature, which is, are you going to adapt or are you going to die? Like that's the fundamental law of nature. You either adapt and you figure out a way to get past things and move on, or you succumb to them. And yeah, sometimes you are going to get knocked down or set back, or again greatly inconvenienced in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways, these are things that again they make the good times that much more valuable. So it gives you a sense of appreciation for things, but also tests your own creativity, your own resilience, as well as, if you really think about it, a lot of challenges and things that we face, are a mind game. So, it really, really tests that mental toughness and your capability to take things and be able to really process it. And yeah, sometimes you are going to lose that mind game, but then that's where, you have to like rely on your support network, make sure that you're finding that balance, that sort of balance of different opinions to really help, get yourself right and get yourself set. But yeah, if you really think about it, like every major challenge and things you're going to face, when you come out of it on the other side, that's when you're like, okay, yeah, that was actually like in hindsight, even though it sucked, it was a good thing. And it helped make me a lot better and forge me to where I am today. But yeah, make no doubt about it. Like it's definitely not fun when you're going through it.
For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say too, like kind of like what you said. It depends on how you define it. There's several different types of adversities out there. You have personal adversity, if like say self-doubt, or if you're in poverty and you're trying to get out. I would look at those as personal adversities, and you can learn a lot about yourself, especially like self-doubt or self-confidence issues. It depends on how you learn from it and deal with it to come out of it. But if it's an external adversity, like personal injury that maybe stops your income, loss of a loved one, struggling to succeed in your, selected career or something like that, those are different types of adversities that it might be better to learn from someone else. But I think for personal adversities, you need to learn how to figure those out on your own and learn from it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And I really, there are so many different ways you can look at it. The book that I was thinking of is Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And it kind of goes back to what Josh was saying, like with professional athletes, like they may have rivals or whoever that push them throughout their career. And I think that when you do have the opportunity to choose what adversities to be dealing with in your life, that's where you can really shape your life how you want it. Facing the types of challenges that afterwards are going to lead to a great benefit to you versus the ones that are you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time. Like I guess when you think of like the workplace, you always have some of those annoying coworkers that they just create problems and they don't really do much and they're just a distraction. And if you get absorbed into whatever types of games or nonsense that they do, in the long run, it's just you're spinning your wheels, wasting your time, and it's that type of adversity and dealing with those types of people isn't necessarily going to get you anything. Where it might be more beneficial to just kind of ignore them and continue going on with actual challenges that are going to be beneficial to you.
And also you just find out like your resolve, right? Because anytime you have a goal or objective, life is always going to ask you the question of like, well, how bad do you really want it? It's like you say you want this, right? Or you say you're moving in this direction and this is where you want to go, where you want to be. Like, how bad do you really want it? What are you really going to do to get there or to achieve it? And so, when life asks you that question, you'll find some very interesting answers because there are going to be some avenues you're going to go down. You're like, you know what, like, this really isn't what I thought it was, and this really isn't for me. So this is not something I want. I'm going to change course. And then other times it's like absolute, where it's like, no, like I'm doing this come hell or high water. So like nothing's stopping me. But the real question is, is like, how do you want? And I think it was, I think Tim Weiss, the guy who wrote 4 Hour Work Week, he made the point that said like, you really, really get what you want. Because it's like, hey, if you say that you want to go on vacation, right, but, you save some money and then you wind up like spending it on something else, then in reality, you really didn't want to go on that vacation. You really, really wanted to do that other thing that you were spending your money on. So, what you really, really want to do, you do wind up actually doing. And there's another really, really great quote that came across when I was scrolling Twitter one day that said that, everybody is self-made. The rich are the only ones that tend to brag about it. And it's true too, because again, wherever we are at in this life, like we're all, self-made, like we all are where we are throughout the end results of a lot of decisions that we've made. And yeah, there's been a lot of things that, people can't control and like different things happen to you, but also at the same time, if you really look back and break down decisions and, how those decisions were made and, what the follow through on those were, it's like, yeah, more often than not, like most times when I've had like a significant didn't achieve something or, chose to stay like not achieving a certain thing, it's because it was like, oh, I really in my heart of hearts, like didn't want it. I wanted something a little bit easier, a little bit different. And so, the real difficult thing is it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm still working or pushing towards those. So I still want those. Right. So that's where the direction I'm going in. But, it's when you come to that level of personal accountability, you realize like, oh yeah, like I am responsible for, how my life turns out and where it goes and what direction it is. You really do realize like how big of an impact, your desire to either pursue something or to, abandon it and move on to something else really comes into play for, achieving your objectives or again, just where you wind up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Like you said, Josh, it's how do we deal with adversity? And like you said, when you want something, are you prepared to deal with the adversity that you're going to have to go through to get it? And then when that adversity arises, one thing we as individuals have is the choice of how we react to that adversity. And our reactions come with consequences, and we don't get to choose those consequences, but we can choose the reaction. So that's what the important thing about dealing with adversity is. When it pops up is how do you react to it?
And sometimes you got to take that ownership, right? There's I think a parable in the Bible where the shepherd like suffers a disaster and like his whole flock of sheep like winds up running away. And so he goes and he asks God, he's like, what did I do to lose my flock? Because he's really confused and doesn't know what happened. And then God says, well, what did you do to keep them? Right. So sometimes you have to flip a little bit of that perspective around when you're going through adversity. In order to say like, hey, instead of asking like, why is this happening to me? It's like, hey, what am I doing to either, prevent this from happening, or what have I done that's, allowed this situation to come about? And yeah, there are gonna be some things that are gonna be completely beyond your control. And it's just up to you to like figure out how to, rise to the occasion and adjust to it. But there's going to be a lot of things that you'll find out where it's like, oh yeah, either directly or indirectly, you do have a very, or consciously or unconsciously, you do have a direct impact on, how certain consequences are coming about or certain things are coming about. So you have to go, oh, okay, what am I doing that's like, really like, putting me in this situation, and how can I adjust going forward?
Yeah, very good point. I know for myself. Oh, great, cool. The lights went out. It's a motion sensor light.
Adversity.
So for myself, I grew up on a farm in a very rural, very remote location. So we had a lot of adversity growing up. We were not very well off. Life was very difficult. So for the majority of my life, until I basically ran away from home, so to speak, which is actually true, I did. I faced literally a shit ton of adversity, and I absolutely hated it, abhorred it, wanted nothing more to do with it. Went and found a job that I turned into a business that I was very good at, and there was no adversity. It was very easy. And after a while, I started taking on more complicated and more harder jobs simply because of the experience and the knowledge that I had growing up dealing with the adversities that I had. And I took on more and more challenging things all the time and started facing adversity again. And it was when I went through that period of growing up with a lot of adversity, having things very easy for quite a while, and going back to adversity and dealing with the difficult things, that I realized adversity was the thing that had taught me the most, had taught me and gave me the most growth, the most problem-solving skills, learning how to deal with things that are beyond your control. When they arrive at your doorstep, all right, here it is. I got to deal with it. And I have this skill set because I have dealt with so much adversity that this is just merely a stumbling block along the way. This is not going to kill me or take me out. It's something that I'm going to overcome. So for myself, adversity has become the friend that I absolutely hate to love, but I do, and I embrace it because every time I face it, I grow, I learn, I become either better skilled, better crafted, or a better person. So it's what it's become for me.
Yeah, and it's also a great teacher because then, like, it helps you help other people that are going through a lot of adversity and a lot of different challenges. Where, for me, when I'm mentoring like guys that are younger, I'm like, oh, don't worry, dude. Like, that's like a cakewalk, like I've made X, Y, and Z mistakes before. So like, here, let me give you some wisdom to help you like avoid making it 5 times worse. Like I did, when I was just stumbling around in the dark trying to figure this out. Or, again, when you've got, a business partner, right, and you're trying to solve a business problem or issue, like, man, how do we like really grow and scale this business? And so, again, you can work together as a team to really overcome a lot of things. So it's a really, like you were saying, Bentley, a really, really good, profound teacher. Because again, when you're winning, like things look great and it's awesome, but at the same time, like you aren't really learning too much. It's like, all right, you're learning that you love winning, all right, and you love like the spoils that come with it. But as far as like being creative and like really testing and pushing yourself, that's you're not going to learn as much in those victories as you are when it's like, okay, you tried 5 different things, you get knocked back, and you're really trying to figure out the one thing that works. So again, the great thing about adversity is that it helps you become like a force multiplier and throughout your life, because now you can really help everybody else that's in your circle, whether it's business partners, people in your personal life, or even just random people you just bump into like and just meet. Like you can be a really good value-added resource. And so a large reason why I've been a fairly effective coach, but also been just effective in a lot of other areas and avenues of my life, is because I've had so much adversity and so many different challenges throughout my life that it's like, okay, if I can make it through all this and like survive, then okay, I can help people figure out some other things. So it's something that again like makes you as a person just a better, sharper, more impactful person overall, that can be a real true force multiplier in your life.
Absolutely. I think that the greatest leadership skills become developed through adversity, learning how to conquer those so that you can, like you said, Josh, it gives you a sense of compassion to be able to help someone else who's going through adversity that you've gone through or that is similar to you, and you know how to help them get through it. Those are the better leaders. Anyone who wants to follow somebody who's had a life that's a cakewalk, you're probably not going to learn a lot from them, like Josh said, because when everything comes easy and there's no problems, there's not really a ton of lessons learned. Because at the end of the day, humans are motivated by 2 factors: pain and pleasure. We will always move away from pain a lot faster than we'll move towards pleasure. So when you make mistakes and you learn from them, mistakes are painful usually. So you learn more from them because you do not want that pain again. So you will learn to avoid that and how to avoid that. So if you want to become a leader, you want to face a lot of adversity. You'll be a much, much better leader.
And here's a question that I have for the group of the panels. What's a kind of recurring challenge or like a recurring theme of adversity that you've had to face? Because we all kind of have like different things that we kind of continuously either like work on or run into. So I'd be curious for you guys, what has been like one particular challenge or one sort of adversity theme that you've continuously like been bumping into.
Sure. I'm gonna start with that one. So going off of kind of what we were talking about a little bit before there, I almost think of adversity as cyclical in my life. So typically a bunch of bad crap will happen, and then I have to conquer it, and then I conquer it, and it's like whew, everything is good now, everything is stable. I'm just gonna think of this in like the career sense, okay? So excuse me. So everything is stable, everything is good. There's not that high level of stress that I previously had. And then it goes back to that sheep example. What am I doing to continue to grow? And a lot of times, because it was such a challenge to get to that point, that when I'm like taking a deep breath and getting comfortable, I stay comfortable. And I end up staying comfortable for too long until shit hits the fan. Something goes wrong, and then I'm scrambling again. Now, when it comes to choosing your adversity and continuing to grow, it's in those times of peace or those times of pleasure or there's those times of no stress that we need to figure out, all right, what adversities can I choose here to continue to grow? Maybe that is, owning your own business and wanting to scale even further. All right, everything is stable now. How do we continue to grow? And yes, it may be more difficult hiring other people on or trying a different area of the business or offering a new product. But it's those adversities that we choose during those times that can, elevate you to that next level. So I think that as a whole, at least for me, the recurring theme is that cyclicalness and reminding myself that when everything is good, I can't get lazy.
That's really good.
Yeah, I'll go right after you, Huds. For me, too, is I don't even know if you would consider this an adversity, but complacency is something that I fall into a lot, whether it be relationships or at work. And like you said, it's so important for us, especially as men, to constantly be growing ourselves and learning and trying to be better, whether it's in the career, in your social circle, personal growth, whatever it. And I find it too easy sometimes to push that to the side, get used to a routine of coming home, going to the gym, going to work, not doing anything on the weekends, thinking that, okay, since it's a day off, I need to be relaxing. But I feel a lot better on Monday if I read half of a book that stimulated my mind, rather than I did if I just binge watched a show on Netflix. So complacency, I look at it as a personal adversity that I go through. And like you said, it's kind of a cyclical type of thing to get used to the routine and not pushing myself to do better, because I get more, I won't say depressed, but I get more self-loathing when I'm in a situation like that, but I still allow myself to.
Yeah, I think we all do. That's probably a recurring theme for everyone. I can't remember the fellow's name who had the comment that you put up earlier, Huds. But the cycle of good times create yes,
There it is.
hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. This is a cycle, and it repeats itself. If I recall correctly, this actually comes from the book. It's either The Fourth Turning or there's another one that was based on something along those lines. The entire cycle of human history follows this cycle, and generations follow this cycle, and it runs somewhere in the 20 to 25 year range. And we are currently going into very, very hard times. So that makes it frustrating for us. And I myself fall victim to this exact same thing of when things get good, I get complacent. And that's why I try to surround myself with people now. I learned this over the years. I didn't know it, wasn't as good at it when I was younger, but I now try to surround myself with people who, when things are good and I'm becoming complacent, will call me out and say, you're getting soft, you're getting weak. You maybe need to look around at things and find out where you need to shore it up. Because going back to your statement, Josh, of, why did you lose your flock? Well, what did you do to keep them? Because when you're comfortable, it's very easy to become complacent when we're become complacent when we're comfortable, because we're comfortable. We don't need to try very hard. Things are going along. And that's when we lose our flock. We have a dip in business. We lose a relationship partner. Maybe we lose a friend, whatever the case may be. Our health slips. We get a little more overweight, right? We're not hitting the gym as regular, because comfort is nice. We all like to relax in it, and it is very welcoming. And that's, once again, going back to the pain pleasure thing. When the pain hits you, that will motivate you to move. So for me, my one thing that I'm working on is not enjoying that comfort quite so much that I don't keep moving away from the pain that is sneaking up on me while I'm comfortable.
Man, that's good. That's good. That's profound. And I'd say for me, the biggest challenge when it comes to adversity is always that, for me, it's always when one chapter ends, moving on to the next chapter. That for me has always been like the bigger sort of kind of challenge. Because, for me, I've always been like, kind of that Marines mentality, like, no man left behind, like really want to make sure I bring everybody up. So, whether it is in like a personal relationship, business relationship, or, a job or something, when something ends and then you have to like, okay, this chapter has ended, it's done with, now it's time to move on to the next chapter. That for me has always been the one where, like I have some friends that are just like, oh, cool, chapter's done, great, on the next one, right? Don't even look back. For me, it's always, I have a very strong, profound appreciation for that window of time. So, when that time runs out, you always are like, can I get just a little bit more? Like I was definitely enjoying it. So, for me, the continual like struggle thing to work on is, and again, I always do find my own way, like moving through that chapter. But for me, it's always like being a little bit, I'd say, like more efficient at the, okay, like, this has run its course. It's time is over. It's said and done. So now it's like time to move on to the next chapter and just really keep moving forward. Which, is something I've gotten better and better at, but it's still, a bit of a challenge to this day.
I can totally relate to that. And that again is like, when we think about success, and you always have to remind yourself, it's about the journey. Enjoy the journey. So when I look back at those times where, it's almost, it almost is like a relationship. Like if I just even think about, a job, and yes, the door gets shut to that chapter of my life and I'm moving on. But I miss it because I have the fond memories of every small adversity, every small challenge that I conquered during my time there. And so I miss that. And, I'm proud of who it made me. And so it's hard to kind of like say goodbye to that, even if there were like a lot of bad times while, we were in that relationship. We appreciate, what it taught us and how it, kind of shaped us.
Yeah. It's and again, it's like, hey, this is a moment that's not gonna like repeat. So there's like something a little bit like bittersweet about it, where it's like, oh, this was what it was, this unique sort of kind of window in time. And so now that like, that little era is fading out into the broader universe and will never repeat again. It's like, okay, what's coming next? But it's usually something that's bigger and better.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. It's about the, success is not a destination, it's a journey. And I used to have one of those motivational, I think I still have it in the attic. If I do, definitely it's going to be part of the studio when I get that set up here in the next day or two. But that's a lot of us, especially as men, like when you reach a certain point and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, okay, we're successful now. What do we do? Quit? Or we stop? I don't think so. That's why Bezos is still working. That's why, the richest men in America, look at Elon Musk. He can never, his kids' won't have to work because of the success he has created monetarily wise, but he still has his hand in different projects. He's still starting new businesses every month. He's still out doing work. So he's still on his journey, even though he's probably one of the most successful people on earth.
Oh, he's definitely facing some adversity, like right now, which is kind of great to see. Like kind of rise into that challenging occasion. So like we'll see where it all like sort of shakes out, but it's definitely like putting on a good show. I'll definitely say that.
Well, he's a great example of being resilient, of how he handles the adversity. People try to cancel him all the time. A weak man would probably have killed himself by now, of all the flack that he has to take. But the way he handles it is a great example. We don't all have the luxury of being as arrogant as he can be, but the way they try to cancel him every day. They try to dox him every day, and he still lives his life and he's still on his purpose.
Yeah. And that's kind of a fine line between, I'd say, like unwarranted arrogance and then, a high extreme degree of confidence. It's like, oh, if I'm, helped invent PayPal and built rockets that can land themselves too and made electric cars. Yeah, I probably have that level of confidence as well.
I think it'd be fairly easy to have that level of confidence when you've accomplished that much. But that leads the question, I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on this. Is success something you can ever truly attain?
I would say yes, because if going to what like Hud said, like success really is like that journey, and so if you are striving and continually moving forward and reaching new successes along that journey, then you look at the culmination of it all, and you really look at kind of like what the body of work is, And that to me is like what the success is, because the success is like, not like being like a one-hit wonder. Yeah, that was like a successful moment, but it wasn't like a successful career or a successful run or a successful journey, right? So it's like, oh, we put out one hit song, and it was like, all right, cool, you had like that good success, but then like, what else have you done around it, right? So I would say that success can be attained, but it's something that you have to continuously work at and upkeep in order to continue it being successful versus it being a non-successful venture or endeavor. Because you can have a moment or two of success and then you could just completely stop and fade out into oblivion. So as long as you're continually fostering success, and sometimes you have to change up what it looks like, where it's, all right, I tried this one thing and I conquered this hill, now I'm doing something completely different, or I'm working on this. But when you string it all together and you look back and you go, yeah, no, like the overall thing has been a success because you never stopped, you continue to go and to grow and to expand, then to me that's what success really means. And that's how I would define like what success is. So it's kind of like what they say, it's like success is it's never owned, it's rented, and rent's due every day. So something like that. That's the way I kind of think about it.
I would agree with that. I think it's a continual type of thing. When you're saying rent due every day, that kind of I was thinking of some type of metaphor in my mind, and I almost think of it like life is a cross-country travel that you're doing, and so you're in your car, and every small success that you have along the way is like refueling at a gas station. And if you continually have those small successes, well, then you're going to continually get filled up enough to get to the end of that journey. But if you have one of those big successes and then you don't do anything else afterwards, well, eventually you're going to run out of gas. So it's like this constantly moving spectrum that you need to be hitting the milestones along the way. And that's, when I guess it's like every success has a time limit before it's like forgettable. If that kind of makes sense. Like there's major successes that may last for a good period of time, and then the minor successes that maybe only last a day. But as long as you're continually having those successes, then I view the whole as successful.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And then also too, I don't know if y'all will agree, but here in the West, success, it's ingrained on us. Our success depends on how much money we have in the bank, or how much money we have coming in, or how big our business is. And I think that's, and it's true in a lot of ways. However, someone that lives a good life and dies a happy man, but never had more than $10,000 in the bank, but never hurt anybody, lived his life the way he wanted to, I would consider that man successful too. But I think in the West, especially in the US, is our success is judged, not defined, but judged by money and things and possessions and material. If you got a Lambo home, he must be successful, but who knows, man? He might have drained his 401k and had to borrow another $70,000 to buy that Lambo, and he's got a $4,000 payment and only makes $6,000 a month. So success is, you really have to define that for yourself, because if you only look at it like that and you're not making the money that you feel successful, that's going to create an adversity that doesn't need to be there, and it's going to put you in a bad state, or a suffering state, as Bentley probably knows when I say that doesn't need to be there. And I think that's success is what we really need to define, because if you define it by the things that you see on TV or read about or watch something, that's going to create an adversity in your life that's almost erroneous, because it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, definitely building on that idea, I'd say like success is a highly personal thing that you have to define, like what that looks like and how it continuously evolves. Because by the outside metrics, it's real easy to, again, like, look at the vanity metrics and go, oh, this guy has like X amount of money, or like, has this career title, or like, has these different things. So they're a quote unquote like successful person. But in reality, it's like, you don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. It's like, hey, do they, have a healthy group of, friends? Do they have like good relationships? Like, did they get, did they cheat a bunch of people out of money, right? And then like wind up, acquiring these different things, right? It's like, what are those metrics, and how do people define them? And that's really something that you have to do for yourself. And it is really easy to look at a lot of the, quote unquote success porn out there, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm like 23 and I like invented this thing and like, and I'm just absolutely like crushing it at, life or whatever. And so really you have to ask and answer for yourself, like, hey, what is, my ideal lifestyle, but also like, what are, my success metrics of what am I driving and pushing towards? Because again, me, I'm a big car guy. So it's like, okay, great. Yes. The cars, that's definitely going to be a part of my success picture. Absolutely love it. But a lot of people I know like don't like cars or, don't care about them whatsoever. So for them, it's not even a factor. It doesn't even matter. And I know a lot of guys that are like ridiculously rich and like, the nicest car they drive is a Lexus because it's like, oh, whatever. It's a nice enough car. Gets me from point A to point B. But for them, it's like, hey, I like, horses, or I like film, or I like this, or I like that. So there's a lot of like really personal things you have to like define and outline, which I think kind of really is a good segue for high or low 1000s question here, which I think is a really, really good question. Which is, I'll read it out here, but, not to sound preachy, but how does faith, spirituality, or resilience on a higher power play into, how you guys deal with adversity and stay resilient? So I'll let you guys take that question first before I share my thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not super religious. However, I do believe in a natural balance and ebb and flow in the universe. I know I talk a lot with like male female relationships. I talk a lot about the yin and yang, because I really do believe in that natural balance. So when it comes to some of these times where I'm really struggling, or I'm faced with something like I don't know what to do, or even just last April, I lost my job out of the blue, and I had to figure out what the heck to do. There was all types of issues where they didn't want to pay me a certain amount of money, and then I had to fight and go to court, and it was very nonsensical time that was way more stressful than it needed to be. But I always remind myself that people aren't out to get you. Everybody in this life wants to be happy, healthy, successful. We don't want problems. So when you have that in mind, understand that whenever something's going wrong, it's not going wrong because people are out to get you. It's going wrong just because things are misaligned at the moment. So when you remind yourself that it's always going to be okay and truly believe it, then typically it's a lot easier to keep your cool and remain resilient as you're dealing with whatever that adversity is.
Yeah, excellent. I myself, I'm not particularly like I'm not big on a particular faith or anything. I'm very spiritual. I've kind of studied several different religions. They largely all kind of follow roughly the same flow, which tells me in all reality, I believe most religions are actually tied together and they have far more in common than they have different. So the whole religious battles, a lot of it I don't understand because the commonalities are so close that they're literally arguing over like the final 5%, whatever the number is, whatever you want to call it, that it's so minute. Why are we concentrated on that when the vast majority we agree on? But based on that, I do believe in a higher power of some sort, whatever you choose to call that. You call it whatever you like. I'm not going to tell you what to call it. I don't know what to call it. I know that I am not intelligent enough to understand it. And, but yeah, my spirituality with that, from that standpoint, helps me play or plays into how I deal with adversity and resiliency is real simple. I've adopted the philosophy in life that this didn't happen to me. This happened for me. There's a reason this happened for me. I need to learn from this. I need to grow from this. And by doing that, no matter how bad, and I have had some awful shit come my way, no matter how bad it is, it's there. I have that. It gives me the resilience that I am, this has been granted to me as a privilege, if you want to call it. This struggle has been a privilege, giving me an opportunity to learn and to grow that I wouldn't have had if this hadn't come along. So no matter how bad it is, there is something that I am going to get for a benefit out of this, even though I can't see it right now. Years down the road, I will understand. But for now, it's here for a reason, so learn from it.
Yeah, love that phrasing of it. This isn't happening to me; it's happening for me. It's a really key like perspective shift, because oftentimes people easily get sucked into that victim mentality a lot of times, because it's like, well, why is this happening to me? And then if you think about like, hey, why is this happening for me? Then it helps you see like more of a pathway forward. Myself, I definitely am like a very deeply spiritual individual. I won't necessarily go into like the full outline of like what my beliefs are, but similar to you, Bentley, I've studied all the big religions, and I do think that there's a lot more of a bigger common thread tying them all together. So to me, they're very much sort of, they all are saying the same thing, but they're speaking just to different audiences. So it's like, however you find the way to come to that higher truth of that message, this is going to be the particular way that's going to speak to you. So that's the way that I look at it. It's like different flavors of the same higher experience. But to answer the question that higher or low 1000 put out there, for me, it's definitely something that helps me get my focus more so on seeing what the bigger picture is and getting outside of myself. Because again, it's real easy to say like, why me, poor me, or, this is, totally the universe is out to get me, and realizing that, hey, like there is a higher power, out there. There's a bigger sort of consciousness and kind of energy field that, I'm participating in, really helps me get a lot more focus and perspective on things, as well as be able to stay a bit more resilient, because now suddenly I start, instead of, thinking about like, woe is me, or really getting down on myself, I start seeing it more of like, okay, cool, this is a big part of a bigger overall thing. And so this is going to, in the grander scheme, help me out and help me figure out where I really need to go and what I truly, need to be doing and who I truly need to be. So that's the part where, it, especially when, bad things happen to you, right? And like you talk to your support circle, and everybody says like, oh, don't worry, like, you'll be okay, like it'll work out. And, part of you is like, yeah, it'll work out. But the other part of you is like, yeah, but like, I still have stuff I have to do in order to make it work out. And I don't know what any of that is in order to make it work out is going to be. Right. So that's where, having that sort of, kind of higher power, I would say, or, like spirituality that you can kind of lean on for a little bit more of that bigger, larger scale picture understanding, helps you get the confidence of, okay, you know what, I can move through this and figure out what those actual steps are going to be and what they're going to look like. Because the biggest problem is there's always a lot of anxiety when you come across a challenge you've never faced before. And so, again, it's like, you're looking at the top of this mountain and like half of it's on fire, and your friends are saying like, yeah, don't worry, like, it'll be okay, like it'll work out. But you're in the meantime thinking like, yeah, but I still have to like hike up the mountain somehow through the fire and get to the other side, right? And I don't know how to do it. It's a very justified sense of anxiety and a justified sense of like, all right, like what am I going to do next now, or what am I going to do now? So, again, having that sort of spirituality that you can rely on, will help you not only just alleviate a bit of that, but also helps you get the confidence in yourself, where it's like, okay, you know what, like this is here to teach me something, but also I have a high degree of confidence that like, I will be able to work with figuring this out and be able to kind of like trust my gut, and, trust that things will work, and that I've been equipped with the tools to figure this out, because, this challenge has been presented before me, but it's something that I can overcome. And, it's not something that's given to me that I can't handle. So, there's a lot of religious texts. There's a saying that no challenges we receive are anything that we can't handle or overcome. It's just up to us to like realize that and figure out how we can do that. So that's, gives you a little sense of, comfort there, as well as just, again, confidence and ability in yourself to kind of move forward through things. But yeah, it's definitely, not easy, but at the same time, like, the way I always tell people is like, look, like, something that can't hurt, right? If you somehow like, go through challenges and you suddenly believe like, wake up and go, you know what? I have been divinely ordained to face this challenge and overcome it. That mindset doesn't hurt, it's not gonna, if you had to, go into like, there was a bar fight and the guy like, you're talking against, or there's like a Key and Peele skit where, there's like these two MMA fighters and like one of them's talking trash and the other one's talking about how he was like divinely ordained by God to defeat and crush all enemies in his path. And the other guy's just kind of like, we're starting to sweat bullets. It's like, it's kind of true. Like if you do like have some of that mindset, it doesn't hurt you whatsoever. If you're like, what, this challenge came my way, but you know what? It's because this was a challenge from on high to show like my divine providence as I move forward in my pathway. It's like, you know what? Like I may not necessarily believe in what you believe in, but the fact that you believe it and believe it so well, I got a high degree of confidence that you're going to succeed and you're going to do well at that. So, hey, it doesn't hurt.
That's excellent. How about yourself, Hudson?
What? Oh, I already answered that.
Oh, you already sorry.
Yeah. I
just tied up in that.
Yep.
So
for me, it is. I believe in the whole like balance of the universe. That's
right.
just kind of where I stand.
Yeah. So with that, with what Josh was saying, I think we've all actually said the same thing is when you're faced with any kind of adversity or any kind of a problem, no matter what it is, you're faced with a choice and the decision is yours. Do you choose to be a victim or do you choose to be a survivor? Now, there are things in life we are victims of, and there's nothing we can do about it. You're walking down the street, somebody jumps out from an alley, sticks a gun in your face, holds you up and robs you. You're absolutely a victim. How you decide to deal with the afterwards of that is where you determine, are you a victim of that for the rest of your life, or are you going to be a survivor and you're going to move forward and you're going to deal with that? And you're not going to be scared to walk down the street at night continuously for the rest of your life. It's a big thing with that is choose to be a survivor, because being a victim is easy. Being a survivor is difficult, and it is adversity, and it will make you stronger.
Yeah, and sometimes you're, collateral damage in somebody else's story. Other times the lesson is just like, hey, you need to have more, greater situational awareness. Other times it's, you're in a place where you're just like really negative, and so you're just attracting a lot of negative things to you. And so, again, we always have to take a look at like our part and our role in the situation. It's like, yeah, why was I here at this exact moment when this was going on, right? It's like, okay, if there was a wild police chase, whatever, and they happen to come through, all right, cool. Like that's just, wrong place, wrong time. It happens, and it's going to happen to all of us at some point. But if it's like, well, you know what, like I was just in a real negative place and just wasn't paying attention. It was too caught up in my own thoughts and like wound up, 3:00 in the morning going down by this alleyway that I probably shouldn't have been. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I had to, I was contributing to what happened in that situation there. So, again, it's always extrapolate like what your kind of role in the situations are. And yeah, some things are just pure blind. All right, it's misfortune. It happens to all of us. But again, at the same time, like what Bentley was saying, it's life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you choose to react to it. So how are you choosing to react to it?
That's good. Yeah, I think if you really want to get the most out of each adversity that you have in life, if you take that personal accountability, I really think that that's the most important piece that gets lost all the time. I know there can be some negativity sometimes in this space. The first thing that comes to mind is when I think about divorce and things like that, and what some guys talk about, and they kind of like write off women and like, oh, like they always, me as the man, I'm getting the short end of the deal, and she was just a terrible person, and yada, yada, yada. Well, it wasn't like that when you guys got married. And so what was your role in the downfall of that relationship to lead you to this point? Where was your filtering that this was the right person for you to be with? I think that's very important with all things. And if you have that perspective, that inward perspective, you really do, you get the most and you grow the most.
Yeah. And again, that like sometimes too, guys get in that situation of like, oh man, like I lost her. It's like, well, what did you do to keep her? Like, hey, because again, like I'm a huge proponent of like, guys, especially every relationship you have is your responsibility and to a large degree, like your fault. So, again, if you're in a really terrible situation, it's like sometimes you ignored a lot of red flags where it's like you didn't filter out and say, no, this isn't going to work. Or other times, like you are on point, you're on your game, and then again, you either got complacent or you got off your game, or life threw you some new challenges, which again caused you to act in a way that again was not conducive to your relationship. So more often than not, it's like again left to our own device. If you really break it down, you can pinpoint and go, okay, here's where my involvement in this situation made it detrimental, where either A, I saw a bunch of things that I just chose to ignore and I allowed it to go this far, or B, it was good because I was awesome and I was on top of things, but then I wound up losing a lot of that. And so that's where, things really started like kind of break down and go a little bit south. So, but the beauty of it all is that, again, like when you take a look and take stock, you realize like, okay, well, if I done this before, I can do it again, but I can also come back at it with the new knowledge that I have to like do it better and take it further than I did the last time.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Making a mistake is never a bad thing if you learn from it and you get better because of it. If you make the mistake, don't admit it. Don't admit your part in it, because any relationship, be it personal with a woman, be it friendship, be it business, doesn't matter what the relationship is. It takes two. And you can always look at it and go, well, it didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. Have you actually analyzed it and taken accountability for your actions in it? Because nobody is 100% innocent in the breakdown of any relationship. We all play some part in it, no matter what. So, even if you want to say, my girlfriend, my wife, she cheated on me. What were you doing to not give her the attention she needed to not want to look elsewhere? Sometimes it happens beyond your control, but was there something you could have done? Sometimes there isn't. But most of the time, if you're really, truly honest with yourself, you'll actually see that there's opportunities where you could have done better and can do better in the future to make sure that doesn't happen again and learn and grow from it. But if you don't do that and you continue to make the same mistakes, run into the same thing, like you said, well, all women are unfaithful, so I'm just never going to treat them very well going forward. That's kind of partially on you. Are you paying attention to this? Because, are there bad ones? Of course. But if we're going to sit here and say, well, because this girl cheated on me, all women are like this, well, then we have to accept the exact same paintbrush as men, that, well, then all men are, rapists and gangsters. No, I am not that. And I do not wish to be painted with that brush. So therefore, I can't use that broad brush when I paint women. Because if I do, I have to allow them to paint me with that same brush.
Yeah.
So
it's also just, if you keep coming across the same things recurring, it's like, hey, life is going to keep telling you, hey, man, you need to like learn this lesson here. So like, we'll keep upping the stakes every single time until like it finally gets drilled in. But, again, always take stock, because, again, especially for, advice for you guys out there, more often than not, women really react to like who you are as a man and what you're doing and providing. So, it's like, with my ex-girlfriend, like, I broke down and did an analysis on like that whole relationship. And it's like, every time like, things went off the south, or like, went to the rails, or, she did something, it wasn't like, it was out of the blue. It was like, oh no, in a reaction or response to like what I was doing and what I had going on. I was like, if I'm doing this, there's no response like that. So when I was doing this, this, and this, there was no justification for response. But then when I started veering off the path, suddenly there was a response to it. And now it's like, oh, and it's real easy to go like, oh my gosh, like she's just crazy, or she's doing blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like, I was actually like in a place where I was like, in a bad headspace, or was dealing with something else, or I wasn't paying attention to the home front. And so then that's where things started to really like kind of fall through the cracks. And so that's where it's like, oh yeah, no, like I have to take 100% ownership and, be responsible for that. So, again, you have to take stock of a lot of things. And yeah, it's real easy to just write it off. It's like, oh my gosh, like they're all crazy, or they're all just, want to go out and, extract all my resources and like then, dump me and leave me for the next guy. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Like in reality, that's not like, and that's the other hard part with like being in the, content creation space as well. Everybody wants to like continuously talk about, all the train wrecks and the horror stories and everything out there. But it's like, yeah, there's an amazing plethora and world of experiences to be had out there. But especially when it comes to like those challenges, right? And that how you can be resilient, like in the difficult times in your relationship. You got to learn the balance of like how you navigate through things, but then B, how you can also like learn to lean on and rely on your partner, right, in order to help get through those situations. Because there have been times where it's like, yeah, I've been through some like kind of tough and tricky situations, and I've had like an amazing girl like with me, and it's like, oh, it just makes everything go so much easier and so much smoother, and I get kind of like that shot in the arm and like get like revitalized. So I'm like, oh yeah, like that's really good. Because there's an awesome scene in the newest Top Gun Maverick, right, where it's like, his Iceman just died, he just got fired, like like the kids are going to be sent off on a mission that they're probably not going to survive. And so the whole time he's just like, I just don't know what to do. And literally all like, the girl Penny in the movie, all she says is just, don't worry, like you've got this, you can figure it out. Like that's all guys need to see. Like that's all guys need to hear. Just that little bit. And it's like, you know what? I got this. So yeah, if I got to go steal an F-18 and just show people that it's done, then great, I'm going to go do it. But again, just that little bit of like encouragement right there, like in your corner, will help you like, go miles away. And so as a guy, right, if you're with somebody that doesn't provide that for you, well, hey, guess what? Like it's, going to be your fault that when you're in a situation where you need that and she's not giving it, well, it's something she was never going to be able to give you to begin with, right? So you got to be able to recognize that and like be able to move on from it. So, it's resiliency and adversity comes in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. And especially in our personal relationships, adversity is something that, especially in this space, there's just I think a lot of like negativity around it. And going to Bentley's point, a lot of like broad paintbrushing strokes with it, where it's like, oh, all people are like this, or all women are like that, or all men are like that. And it's like, well, all right, there's a reason why like a lot of people just in the dating world aren't winning today, because they've got that mentality. So if you want to like get out of it or break that cycle, then it's like, hey, there is another side. There is like an amazing upside to a lot of this, but you have to go through some of that adversity in order to really learn. Because again, you learn about yourself, and how you learn how you handle different things, and how you handle a lot of different challenges and pressures or adversities will have impacts directly on your relationships. And I'm sure a lot of people know this growing up, where they could see like tension with their own parents, right? When their parents were going through adversity, and how that tension can impact like the rest of the family unit. So, it's you're going to see and face it from all aspects of life.
Absolutely. I think that's wow, there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom that that we've dropped throughout this entire conversation. We're coming up at the hour mark. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the topic as a whole, or anything you want to summarize, or what you think maybe is the most important nugget of information to take from this?
I've got a summary point. Something that a lot of people do. I found this just with coaching some of the guys in our community, Men of Now, which, by the way, if you want to throw the ticker up, if this is the kind of advice you're looking for in life, we have a group where we talk about stuff like this behind the paywall and a little more in depth, and you can have one-on-one interactions and conversations with us by joining the group. So I encourage everyone to do it. But a big thing most people look at when they run into some adversities, is, well, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to do this? Don't get stuck in the quagmire of how, because how will never answer the question. Take the problem and break it down into what are the steps to solve this, and break the problem down into the steps. What are the steps to solve this particular portion of the problem, and break it down into the what do I do to solve this, rather than asking how, because there is no answer to how. There is always an answer to what are the steps to resolve this.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What I would say to kind of sum it up is that adversity is literally what you make of it. And so it can make you or it can break you. And so, it's really how you react to it, how you handle it, and again, how you welcome it, right? Where it's just like, oh my God, I got to do this. Or, you know what, this kind of sucks, but like, I'm very fortunate and lucky that like, I get to have this problem and I get to solve it, because, it's going to make my character development so much better, but also it's going to take you to a completely different spot. So, if you can really focus on again, not so much the like why this is happening to you, but just again going back more to Bentley's point, like here's the practical like steps I need to take in order to address this. Then that's shows one, your creativity, but also two, your capability to really move on to something that's bigger and better, as well as again, you get to really find out how much resolve you really have and really see what you're made of. And so that to me is like what I always view every time I come across adversity, especially major adversity. It's a real chance to see like, hey, what am I made of? And I really like when I interviewed Ed Lattimore years ago, the first thing he said, because I asked him the question of, when you go into a boxing match, like what's your first thing? What's the mentality behind like getting ready for a fight? And he said, the first thing I want is I just want to get hit really quick just to make sure I'm not made out of paper and I don't fall and crumble. And so that's like always stayed with me. And that's kind of the same mentality that I take with adversity is like, yeah, I want to, kind of get hit by these things and just see like, all right, what am I made of? Like, am I actually made of something that's like a tough material? If I'm not, I got to get sharper. If I am, great. I'll figure out a way to move forward and balance forward. But, it really is what you make of it. And, again, going on what Bentley was saying, like these are the types of things that we, really talk about and discuss in the Men of Now community, which is great. And, high or low 1,000. Love having you in there, man. Glad to see that you found the group and were brought in. We love having everybody in there. And yeah, Jaron's awesome. He's doing some great stuff in there as well. But it's a group where we're very, very much focused on that. Hey, how can we all help each other like level up? Because we're all at different phases of life and we're all like facing sort of different challenges. But to me, it's been really cool to see like the guys in there, again, really just kind of, put it all out there. And so for us on the coaching side, we learn a lot. But then too, like, again, we have times where we've got stuff where, hey, we need to pick guys' brains because, we're at our wits' ends with certain things. So it really is an awesome place that's been really cool to see how the guys have really like stepped up and really been contributing there. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Oh yeah, dude, I love the community, and I'm so excited. Like if anybody's thinking about joining, we've got another meeting this week, Zoom call with everybody. It's always great when we get the guys together for things like that, and then even outside of just basic meetings like that, it's like nonstop. Like you guys did book club last week. You're going through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Is that what it was? Yep. And so there's all types of things that go on in there for you to level up in literally any area of life that you're looking to. And if you have a problem or whatever, there's always somebody who's been through it or has experience or has advice for it, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. I swear, man, like I wish that I got involved in communities like this like a decade ago. Like I feel like it was such wasted time, but yeah, I'm just appreciative to have everybody in there.
Or if there's a problem that you can't solve or someone doesn't know, you have like a more collective resource of a lot of different minds working on that one problem versus just being stuck like on your own trying to figure it out. So that's also what's cool is like seeing like a couple of particular situations I can think of, like everyone just kind of rallying together to like kind of pick their brains and really figure out what could be a good solution for somebody. So it's been pretty cool. Everyone's just like really come together in there.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, with that, that wraps up this week. If you guys have any show topics, definitely comment them below. Like, let us know. We're open to talking about literally whatever. So yeah, appreciate everybody. And until next time, have a good week.